Dang, how overt can you be? It's shaped. They took an aerial shot of it. It's shaped just like a Navy ship, the courthouse. I said, no, they didn't.
Islam, Islam Empress, was that ship like 20 feet up in the air?
I don't know if it was in the air, but they took the picture. It was an aerial shot
Yeah.
of a courthouse in Florida on the ground. It's shaped just like a Navy vessel.
Okay. They have one in the air. They have one in the air also, like 20 stories. And it has two buildings. And in the middle of the top of the building is a ship.
Hmm.
And it's a courthouse.
Oh wow. Well, they letting you know right there. We're being occupied. All of these pirates came on ships. All right, I got a chapter about that in the book. All of these pirates that helped overthrow the empire came on ships. This is why everything is based around that commerciality of the ship. This is how they got here. This is how they help sustain and fund the missions through those ships that were pirating. So all of these families that I'm gonna be telling y'all about in these books were a part of that. They were a part of overthrowing the empire, and all of these movies that talk about, you know, overthrowing or coming away from England, these people, these pirates, that whole paradigm dealing with the pirates and the ships and them being in the Bahamas and the Caribbean islands, all of that was them setting up to take over the empire. That is in America. Let's get that straight.
Islam Empress.
Ashe.
I say. Um, it's wild because pyrite or pyrite, the gemstone, mineral pyrite is actually iron pyrite, and it's what we know today as fool's gold.
That's interesting. It's definitely
So
interesting.
I say, I you.
Yeah, so when you learn the truth and you start watching these movies, that's how you can piece two and two together. But you first got to have a solid foundation on the truth. Once once you have that solid foundation on the truth, everything you see and hear, you're gonna automatically be able to decipher what's true and what's not. But you have to have that solid foundation and you have to be seated in truth within yourself. Never be a follower. Follow your own inner voice, your own connection. And that's what I said at the age of 6 to my grandfather, who was Reverend in the church. Like, why do I have to keep learning the same lessons over and over again when God is in me? I said that at 6 years old, not even really knowing what you know what I'm saying? Knowing not what I know. But that was the truth. I couldn't understand it. Like, why do we have to do this every Sunday?
When I was around the same age, my question was, if God created the world, who created God? So basically, same difference. God is within me. Hmm.
Islam, my question was, um, How come that man don't look like me? Don't look like none of us.
That as well. For sure. For sure. Islam matriarch. I say.
You better not take down that white Jesus from grandmama's over grandmama's couch.
From what I have seen written is um, that's the only way people could survive, to portray that they were believers in Jesus, because the colonists wouldn't kill you if you believed in Jesus. Yeah.
Mm,
The Christian Crusaders, matriarch, not the colonists.
mm.
Islam, I stand corrected. The Christian Crusaders. Do you know about the Corsairs, Empress?
The Christian Crusaders were missionaries, correct? And their mission was to get rid of all the heirs of the land and the true children, indigos of the Most High.
The Christian Crusaders' charging orders were that of the Inquisition. The Inquisition was formed to do just that. Acquire
Mm.
the lands of the empire. So everywhere there was a seat of power, the Inquisition went there, forced their will upon the people, forced their ideology upon the people, and forced them into a religion, a religious sect that was not their own. And they did it claiming to be cleansing people under the name of God.
Mm.
So anybody that did not agree, anybody that opposed them, they killed them. That was instituted after the Indian Wars. After they finally got a good footing on the ground, then they came with that. And then they started killing those that had spiritual power, naming them witches and heretics, and made it against the law to do any kind of shamanistic work, any kind of ancient prayers and practices. They forbid the people of the land to practice their own belief systems. What's called forced assimilation. That's another thing that we have in our reclamation, letting them know that we are not to be forced to assimilate. That was an international sentiment outlawed in 1960s in 1960 by the United Nations. So that's why you had all that rioting and all of those killings, and the Ku Klux Klan started to uprise because people were being liberated from all of that, and they didn't want that. And that was the spark of all of the chaos and turmoil that happened in the 1960s, because so-called black folk was actually stepping out and walking into their power without fear, quote unquote, the Black Panther Party, that they were very afraid of, because they were anyone that came along and was liberating others, they suppressed them and they killed them. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, All of them were killed by these secret orders, by the Boule, by their own, who were in the heads of um, the ruling powers behind the heads of government. So that's where you hear a lot about Jesse Jackson, the son, the son of a pirate. That's going to be in the book. Jack Rackham. Jack Rackham was a fictional character. He named himself. He was a true character. He was a true entity. Pirate Jack Rackham named his sons Jackson. Jack's sons. Jackson. That's where the Jackson family come from. All of them come from a Boule family. All of the families who helped take down the empire became Boule families and made their way in the high society. So Jesse Jackson, you hear him being talked about a lot for being a part of the killing of Martin Luther King.
Right.
Because that's a part of that Boule order. And he came out and admitted that he stood to the side so the man could get a clear shot. Said it openly on camera. That was a part of the proof and a part of his ritual to show his allegiance, to come out openly and say that. Somebody ordered him to do that. So his people across the world who ordered it can know that it was done and he did what he was supposed to do. Boule order. They are the top of the orders. Well, in America. Illuminati is the other version of them in Europe. And they here too, but the Boule has the most power here politically. So all those that you see of dark hue in Congress, in entertainment, in high places of power have been in the Boule order.
Yes, Empress. And they get them while they're young, hungry, poor, and they feed them. They give them scholarships. They give them money for them to sell their souls. And they think they're getting a good education. They really don't know what they're getting into. I have that happening in my family right now.
Mm.
Johns Hopkins University offered her a
Mhm.
scholarship. She went from a bachelor's to a PhD. She was a straight A plus student. And now she wants to be a teacher of pharmacology. And I said, the study of potions and poisons, that's what you want to do? You need to study Dr. Sabi. And I think it fell on deaf ears because she was in the midst of being in a laboratory and doing all this. And I'm like, well, her ears is closed to me, so she's not going to listen to anything that I have to say. So I just let her go. They got her. With that
Well,
idea.
you can change. You know by what we now know what a power is. You know anything can be changed and the ancestors can make it so. So you don't have to say a thing. You give it to them.
Yes.
They will
I sure.
straighten it out. Is that and they know best how to straighten it out.
I'm sure.
Ashe.
Whenever it gets to be too big for us, you have to give it up to the ancestors in the universe, the Almighty, Great Mother Shekinah, Mother Nature, wonderful and precious ancestors. So the top Ivy League schools, what are they? Stanford, MIT, University of Chicago, Duke, Caltech, Johns Hopkins, Northwestern, Emory, Vanderbilt, Rice, and Georgetown are considered as prestigious and as various Ivy League schools. Yep, she in one of them.
Yes, she is. And she was sought by a lot of them. She
I
shows.
tell y'all, they follow our families. Got to cover your family. Got to cover your family and protection. Got to. Don't let them go out here and don't be covered. They know not what they do, and they don't have a clue about what is what you know and what we know to be true. So, like I was saying earlier, we have to keep each other covered. That's our duty. That's our responsibility. It's not every man for themselves, like we've been taught. We have to go back to when we was young and the lady down the street saw you doing something wrong, she whooped your butt and send you home. That's what we got to get back to in the
Yes.
spirit realm. Okay.
I'm
Ashe.
sure.
There was a lady on my block. She just passed last month. She lived to be 110 years old. And she was that woman. Tell everything. Miss Gertrude, yes, loved her.
110. Look at there.
Yes,
Uh-uh-uh.
yes, that was
hmm
amazing.
You can tell she was a good soul.
Hmm.
Ancestors needed her here to get y'all straight. Help get y'all straight. 110 years. That's amazing. And you know, there's stories we was talking about earlier in the Bible where we used to live for 800 years and stuff like that. Old as Methuselah. We used to tease people and say that. Do y'all believe that we really live to be that old?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Older, wiser.
There are people in, I believe it's Pakistan, that are 250. Well, I don't know how old they are at this moment, but they were 256, 150, and daughters, mothers, people were living that old. I'm like, what's in the water in Pakistan?
What's that original blood? That's close to Kemet. All of that up in there. The original bloodline over there. You see they keep fighting. They've been fighting almost 100 years to get them people from over there. since 1960 or 48, 1948 or something, when them Jews went, fake Jews went and plopped themselves down over there, and these people still fighting them to this day. That's where all the wars come from. These people can't just come plop themselves on the indigenous people's land and start taking stuff, taking their resources, overthrowing, trying to overthrow them. They ain't buying that. And people still fighting them. That's how you know they got strong spiritual roots that they can still fight them to this day.
In the Old Testament, I believe Noah lived to be 500 or 700 years of age. If I'm not mistaken. Somewhere between there is what it was scribed to be.
What was the purpose of that, you think?
To show that throughout generations how we have succumbed to uh, certain things, whether it be us not listening to our foremothers and forefathers, and or these colonists and these and these oppressors colonizing us and trying to steal our land and our knowledge and our essence, our soul. Uh, and so throughout the years, it's become naturally by science and nature harder for us and our genes to thrive in our first and original nature. That's my take on that. I yield.
Used to live to be 800 and 900 years old, and we don't live that long today.
As long as pure food, pure water, and we had a direct connection to the Creator. The Creators took care of us. I yield.
Islam. Ashe. Ashe, matriarch. Ashe.
I would say that we live to be that old, depending on the timeline. I would say it was because we needed to populate the earth. We needed to be here for a long time. It wasn't that many people on the earth at that time. And like the noble earlier was saying, that this one couple had like 40 something children. And so I think, the creators wanted us to be fruitful and multiply the earth so that we can have as many people as we have now. So you had to be here for a long time to populate the earth. That's what I think. Ashe.
Ashe. What?
Ashe, you had to be here. And women were getting pregnant in their 65s. And yeah, I can see that, having multiple births. And my great grandparents, they were having 17 children around that. And their children had multiple children like that. So they said it was because they needed the workers in the field, but they were having multiple births. My goodness. And then everybody ran from the farm to the city. So they couldn't teach the old ways to the young children because the young children was getting stuck on the streets and what was going on there, which was a big fat zero. But They thought that was living, what living was all about. I yield.
Wow, yeah, I noticed that they had a lot of children to help out, the family till the land and help around the house and on the farm. Yeah, that's um one of the things that has been instilled in these families that I'm talking about. They were taught to have a lot of children because things back then, 100 years ago, and even today, that's what was taught to the royal families to be able to sustain the family line and to maintain rulership. And so these families that I'm learning about, they have the main family has went around the world and took seats of power, and they had the largest army in the world, and most of those in that army was from that same family line. And so they were able to dominate and force their will upon the people because they had the force to do so. And that was the age of wars. Matriarch, you trying to say something? Because I
No,
can't hear you. Okay.
no, I'm listening.
That was the age of wars. They were the ones that caused all the world wars. And most of those world wars was because of what we just discussed, going over to other indigenous people's lands, trying to take over. And those people were fighting to maintain their posterity on their own land. Most of the times they didn't have the force to win, but they did have the spiritual powers helping them, such as Haile Selassie, who defeated them. And you'll see the picture even today circulating where so-called Queen Elizabeth had to bow before him and his wife when she came to visit. That is a standard dealing with royalty. And she had to do that.
And her husband.
Okay. I believe I seen the picture of just her. Is it a picture of him too? I have to get that.
Yes, I saw him bow also.
And that not just bow, they was down to the floor.
Down
Like,
to the floor, down to
yeah.
the floor. Yeah, just like the Pope.
Mm-hmm. And just like that passage in Revelations 3:9, I will make the uh sons of Satan or the synagogue bow to your feet. That was a prerequisite in the imperial and royal families. You couldn't go and see them without giving them their propers, their proper attributes and introductions. Ashe. So those were the
Same.
ones. Those were the ones that did not get defeated, even if they had a large army. Even here, Cherokee, did not get defeated because we held strong to our spiritual powers and practices. The
For
Haitians
sure.
did not. The Haitians did not get defeated. Not right away, anyway. Nanny and the Maroons in Jamaica did not get defeated because of their spiritual practices. No matter how large the army was and how strong a force they presented, they did not lose. They stood strong and they could um, live another day and ended up governing their own area. They had to make agreements with them because of that. This is why the ancestors wanted me to see that I could sustain myself and defeat them with my spiritual practices. They told me, you stay right there on that spiritual side. Because I remember I was saying, I'm going to get me a gun. And they was laughing like, you stay right where you at. This is where you going to defeat them. And they sent me a message. And I was listening to something and it said just that, the same exact thing. I was watching one of the readers that I had frequently watched at one time, and that message was just for me. I said, wow. So, yeah, the ancestors, spirit guides, they definitely move through others. They will go through others to bring you a message, no doubt about it. And you know when that message is for you, it's like, wow, they're talking to me. Wow, we have 8 people hanging with us online. Y'all some night owls, huh? Well, 7, one just dropped off.
Empress, do you know of the Corsairs?
Oh yeah, you asked me that. We talked about this before. I don't know of them per se. Haven't studied them, no.
Okay. Corsairs are the equivalent to the pirateers,
Hmm.
but the Corsairs were fierce Moors who had
Mm-hmm.
brigantines and galleons and galleots and big ships and little ships, 16 cannons or no cannons. They would go hand to hand, sneak up aboard these pale faces ships and take them out. They would direct their cannons to take out their masts. It took 5 miles for a ship to turn, and the pale faces would go after ships who they thought they could beat. But around the alcove was a battalion of ships, like 500 to 2 or 3, because they thought they could take us out. We took them out, and we would put people on a place called Porcupine Island or wherever was near, just to get rid of them. And Porcupine Island is where the Buccaneers get their name from. You know, the Buccaneers is a football team.
No, tell us.
It's a football team, the Buccaneers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It means bacon eaters.
Oh, that's what that
I like
means?
that one. I hear you. Matriarch. For sure.
Yeah. So we were humane to them when we would take them out. If they gave up willingly, or we would sink them. They would come
Mm,
from South America with their booty, and they were being uh, tall ships, but being low in the water, and they would have two ships guarding them. Well, we show up with 500. What you gonna do? The game is over. So it was a place called Roanoke in Virginia. It was an
mhm.
island. It was an island. It was right on the water.
Jerusalem.
Okay, and when the Moors would come, they would snatch everybody. I mean, kidnap the whole colony and make them work building our castles and mansions and fortresses. Wherever we went around the Mediterranean, we would do that. It was a man named Harel al-Din who was very famous pirate, corsair. And I read about him years ago. But Moors were equivalent to the uh, the ships on the water, and that's why in the late 1800s they wanted us to stop snatching whatever they had sailing on the water. Moors had revenge in mind after we were kicked out of Spain, which was 1492. Around that time, Moors went into North Africa and other places, France, and we didn't just settle for one spot. We were all over, and the Moors had revenge in mind, and that's why they were taking ships that sailed. That's why they wanted the peace and treaty of peace and friendship, dealing with the sails and signs and things like that, because we were just taking them off. And we kept taking them off till the late 1800s because we had revenge in mind.
May I add?
Yes, ma'am. I'll yield with that.
The 1492 fall of the Moors never existed. Um, I would say that the taking of the ships and different things like that was most likely because they were in our waters and they should not have been. But the whole story about the Moors falling in 1492 never existed. As I was, as I've been teaching, the 480 years that they added into the timeline of their history, that was one of the stories they injected to supplant in the minds of the people that we had fallen. And this is why or how we fell from grace. And the pale faces that came out of the cave are now ruling over us because we fell in Granada. That's not true. It's the furthest thing from the truth. So, what I suggest and what I do is if I have any lapse in time or information, I usually get 3 to 4 more references, and you have to go back into archives where the true history, the true timeline and legacy of events has been preserved. Then you can piece together what actually happened. Ashe, are you?
Ashe.
Ashe, I will do that because I'm reading from a book called Moors Before Spain, Moors After Spain. So I'll have to go back and do just that because I'm listening to him and I'm all caught up with Moors is doing something, even even if it's uh being dangerous.
Well, we navigated all 7 seas, 7 continents, and 7 seas, and we governed the water. That's why a lot of the Navy, um, the naval verbiage is named after us. It's because we were the ones that governed that, and we governed the land as well as the seas. So I can see them snatching people up, making them do labor as punishment and things like that. And then you have to also remember that they took painstaking efforts to diminish the the legacy of the Moors, the diabolical Moor, painting these pictures like the Moors were horrific, and as I'm stating, everything was taught in reverse. They had to paint a picture of the opposite so that you, the reader and us learning would not form in our minds anything good about these Moors. So that's all I want to say about that. I yield.
Islam Empress. The Moors were fierce. They, like you said, the 7 seas, they had the best wood and they would go into, the best sails. They went from triangle to squares so they could catch the wind, tack the wind. That's what they used to do. Yeah. Anything sailing, they was taking. You had to pay. People had to pay bounties because they were being kidnapped. Not kidnapped, but they were being taken for ransom. Yeah, I'd like to know more about that. Ships was the only way to travel at one time. Yes. Did we hear any more about that mermaid?
No, maybe we should follow up. That really upset me the way those people was not taking care of her. I mean, they see this as a living creature, a living being, and they just poking and hoovering. Nobody trying to care for her. I was looking like, what in the world kind of people are these?
They made me upset.
Matriarch, my children, they're into selling of the seas and all of the pirate stories and the Moor stories. Uh, so I had an idea within this past year. to uh, construct a cartoon for children, since most parents just put technology in their children's hands, just let them watch YouTube and all of this stuff all day long, to start incorporating a lot of this more history and knowledge into what our children are watching, um, and the same subconscious fashion as they do anything else. So if you could or would point me in the direction or send references and links to the chat, uh, uh, that in regards to the pirates and the Moors and the selling of the seas, because I want to actually get into some of that research and that history, the essence. So yeah, I'll do my due diligence to relay that to the youth for sure. I like that. That's very intriguing to know. And I also believe I ran across a book that was titled. It is titled Arabs in America, 1492, and it touches a little bit as far as the seas, the land and the sea and the water, and that as well. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know and then ask for that. So if you ever do come across that, please keep that in mind. Get that to me, please, matriarch. Will you? Will you? Will you?
Islam.
I'll say it's on.
It's 2 books. Yeah, I I love the water. I was looking at the water today. It's a place that I traveled to called um, Fort Smallwood, and in the Potomac, Chesapeake Bay, it branches off into the Potomac, and it goes up into the inner harbor of Baltimore City, and they put all of these cannons on the shore on both sides of the land to bombard the British from coming up to take over the city of Baltimore, like they did the city of Washington, district of criminality. So I was there today and just looking at um, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which I had to tell my children that, that's the man who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Now, a banner is not a flag, so there is a big difference. Corporations have banners, nations have flags. These were young children, so it's not like they're gonna, well, with me in their life, they're gonna hear it. But that was the farthest thing from their mind. But they really just want to see another side of life right now. And I must have patience. Ooh.
I'll say.
Hi, family. Hi, family. Hi, family. I'm signing books today. Get your copy. It's more than a real estate book. It's an American history lesson. Get your signed copy by the author sent to you with a special message from Eureka M. Ramjour. Get your copy today. Myth Behind Foreclosure, Wall Street, Big Bank